Modi government school grading index is in. Now, essentially, this measures the level of education across schools in states and union territories of India. So, what are the big findings? Which are the states that top the charts? Which are the states that are laggard, that continue to trail behind? And on what basis are these parameters drawn up? What are these parameters? To answer these questions, Kritika Sharma, who tracks education for the Print, is with us in this episode of Government Matters. Kritika, thank you for being there with us in this episode. Also, our viewers, this is a live episode as always, so please do start sending in your questions. Kritika would be happy to answer them. So, Kritika, before we get to what the results of this index are, which are the top states, which are the laggard states, you've also done a story, of course, this is on our website, ThePrint.in. Let's get a little into what this index is about and what does it tell us?
Yes, sure. So as you rightly said in the introduction that the performance grading index is kind of a measure to find out where states stand in terms of school education. In the sense, what's the level of education and the basic school education in various states across the country. So this index was released for the first time in 2019 when 2017-18 was taken as the reference year. What essentially this means is all the data that has been used to tabulate the index was from 2017-18 when it was released for the first time. This year's data takes this year's results takes the data from 2019-20 into account. So the broad indicators are, there are two broad categories in which the results have been calculated. One is the outcomes, which also means the learning outcomes. In the sense, what's the level of learning at in various states across various subjects among students. The second one is, of course, the governance and infrastructure, which means what's the kind of teacher-student ratio, how many teachers are recruited in a particular year in states. So these are the kind of, this is the broad structure of this indicator, Ruhi.
So how many parameters are there in all, if you can get a sense of how many indicators there are?
Yes. So like I said, in these two categories, there are 70 broad parameters. And if I go into a little detail, when we talk about learning outcomes, so learning outcomes are essentially measured in India at the school level for three classes at level 3, at class 3, class 5, and class 8. And they are measured specifically for mathematics and languages, English, Hindi, the knowledge of languages and mathematics. So this is the basic, when you want to test a child's basic literacy, this is what you test. So these markers have that. What's the percentage of students who can read, write numbers in a particular school? What's the percentage in a particular class? Like I said, class 3, 5, 8, these different levels. Then how many students can write basic sentence of English or read basic alphabet? So these are the learning outcomes. Okay. Now we come to this is one of the learning outcomes. It also measures the level of learning outcomes in comparative learning outcomes. Say, what's the learning outcomes in students who are from the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe category vis-a-vis the students from general category. So this is also one of the indicators in which these parameters are marked. Then we come to governance and infrastructure. Here we are talking about the kind of infrastructure that exists in schools, the kind of, whether the school has enough toilets, whether there are enough toilets for boys and girls, whether there are enough books that are being supplied to students, whether there's a library, there's a reading room. Now, an additional marker which is added to these parameters, these index these days is the ICT technology, whether the school has a smart board or not, whether the students are being, equipped with classes online or not. Obviously, post 2020, everything is online, but this is the data that we're talking about from 2019. So this is one. Then what's the percentage of teachers in a particular school? If there is a shortage of teachers, are new teachers being hired? Are there inspections being conducted from the district administration at these schools? So these are some of the governance and infrastructure things and themes based on which this index has been calculated. Yeah.
All right. So now, Kritika, now coming to the most important part of the index. Which are the
Yes.
states or union territories which are doing well, where the work is noteworthy, and which are the states which are lagging behind, which continue to trail?
Yes. So, Punjab is a state which has shown remarkable improvement as compared to last year. This is both in terms of their infrastructure and learning outcomes. Then, of course, Tamil Nadu and Kerala, these are two states which have always been performing good on various, school education indexes. PGI is, of course, being released only since 2019, but from historically, we have seen southern states performing better than North Indian states. So Kerala and Tamil Nadu are also obviously one of the top performing states. Then Andaman and Nicobar has done really well. Chandigarh is also one of the top performing UTs. Punjab, Chandigarh, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and Andaman and Nicobar, these are some of the top performing states in UTs. Now, if we talk about the ones that are lagging behind, Ladakh is because it was the first time that Ladakh's education index was calculated independently. Ladakh has excuse me, turned out to be the least performing UT in the category. Apart from that, Meghalaya has also not performed really well. So these are the ones that are lagging behind. Now, if we talk in terms of a comparative analysis, so most of the states, this is what the report says, most of the states have performed well. They have improved their indicators as compared to the last year's index. Only Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh have not improved. They have in fact gone back on their indicators. They have shown a regression when it comes to their scores. Also, the other major state that has not improved, has gone down on its ranking, is Gujarat. Gujarat, although it turns out it is one of the good performing states, it has dropped from its rank as compared to last year. So this is some of the broader stats. Now, if we look at the broad, if you look at the country's map and want to look at the states, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Rajasthan, Haryana, Delhi, of course, we discussed Punjab and Chandigarh. These are some of the very well performing states in India.
Right. Okay, so Kritika, what about Heartland states like UP and Bihar? Because there's always a conversation around how they lag behind various social development indices, including health, education, etc.
Yes, so here also Bihar has not performed very well. In fact, in terms of infrastructure and governance, which is the second category, which has a lot of other parameters under it also we were talking about, Bihar is one of the worst performing states over there. UP has not done so bad, but it's obviously not among the, I'll just once more look at the report also, but UP is not one of the best performing states, of course. Yeah, so it has a score of 800 to 850. The states are marked maximum out of 1,000. So the range starts from 950 to 900, which is the top performing states. Then comes 900 to 850, then 850 to 800. So UP is among the 850 to 800 range, which is not so bad, but it's not obviously among the top performers.
Okay, so let's take this question from Kavita AP. What do you think about the difference between North Indian states education system and South Indian states education system, including Maharashtra? So is there, to try and understand, is there a pattern, is there a North-South or East-West divide as such?
Yes, historically it has been like that. Like I said, we have seen Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Andhra and Karnataka also, they have always been performing better than the northern states, especially states like UP, MP, Bihar. These are always lagging in several education indicators. When you talk about Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Gujarat, they are not one of the states that lag behind. They are also one of the states that do well, but they are probably the second, third well-performing states. Kerala, Tamil Nadu, these are one of the best performing states. Also note that whenever the CBSE results are announced, the Trivandrum zone, which CBSE is divided into various zones, so Trivandrum zone is always the best performing zone. So that also gives you a kind of idea on how southern states perform.
Right. Okay. So, we've talked about the South and how well Southern states usually do when it comes to education, also health and other social development parameters.
Yeah.
Then you've said the Western states do fairly well. We've
Yes.
also talked about, how the Heartland states perhaps lag behind. What
Yes.
about the Northeast? You've mentioned
Yes. So,
Meghalaya in one of
yeah.
your
Yeah.
remarks earlier.
So Meghalaya is obviously one of the lowest performing states when it comes to infrastructure. Also, in the overall index, also Meghalaya has a score of 600 to 650, which is in the lower indicators. So most of none of the northeastern states have crossed above say 900. So obviously, yes, the level of the educational indicators in the northeastern states are not as good and as compared to the other states in the central India, in the southern India, or the northern India. Yes, so they are lagging behind. So also, Ruhi, let me tell our viewers that this index has also been prepared with the purpose that these states should look at various indicators as in where they are placed right now and try and improve on them. This is not so when this indicator was released, there's a line which says that we are not releasing it as a rank, but we are giving a grade to the state so that they can improve upon it and not just be stuck like a ranking, like how various international university rankings are released,
Right.
IITs as number 50 or 100 and things like that. So
Right.
this is a kind of a grade so that states can improve upon their performance.
All right. Okay. Lisha wants to know the education indicators based on which this is decided. We've already, I think, talked about that in a fair bit of detail. Sana Bohra, states like Assam are almost flooded and it affects the school children. How is it affecting their education? What is their state in the survey? So there are two parts to it. Of course, how one question is how Assam is doing, and the second part is that a lot of these northeastern states, it's the topography, it's the geography, it's access, it's the weather, climate, all of that perhaps comes together to impact. So are these factors taken into account when you do this grading?
See, this particular index that we're talking about, it takes into account the data which is already existing. So there is a data called a UDICE data, which is compiled by the Ministry of Education, Department of School Education. This takes various indicators from schools across districts in India, across states. So this particular data is taken from the existing data. Then it also takes upon the NAS survey, which is the National Achievement Survey conducted by NCRT. Whatever existing data is available, based on that, this survey is created, this report is created so that we have a compilation of everything. See, UDICE is talking about the number of teachers and the management and governance issues, and NCRT is talking about learning outcomes. And this is something that everything comes together and you have a holistic picture of how a state is performing in terms of education. Now, coming to the second point about the state being, Assam, Assam, particularly the floods and other situations affecting students' education. So this particular point is not taken into account while preparing the report, but obviously there are other interventions that are done around around the problem. For example, if a particular state or a particular district has students who are not able to attend school because of a reason, they are taught they're taught extra classes, and the teachers reach out to them. The books are sent to their homes, like how we are seeing in times of COVID. So that's how the system tries to fill the gap, and then it's taken into account their performance.
Right.
What I mean is it's not done directly, but indirectly after interventions.
Okay. So this is a question from Sanjana, which is linked. She wants to know, are state governments taking any steps to bridge the gaps in their respective states? So I think, Kritika, the larger question is what happens with these indices, what happens with these grades? What is the process? Does the Education Ministry flag them to states to take cognizance on their own?
Yes. So like I said some time back, the whole purpose of creating such a index is that so that states can learn, they can see where they stand and where they need to improve. For example, if a particular state is lagging behind in infrastructure, they need to focus on infrastructure mostly. spend their monies towards spend their budgets towards those things. If a particular state is lagging in terms of learning outcomes, they should invest more in hiring teachers, improving the quality of teachers, training those teachers, because you see, the whole purpose of this index is quality of education should also be improved along with the infrastructure and availability of books and everything else, governance. So yes, this is how the government plans to take it forward. Intervention wherever it is necessary.
This is a question from Shivek Bhatnagar. What happens now that the way schools function has changed in the COVID era, now that it's been entirely online? Would the next survey or the next index take this into account? It's an interesting question because how we understand education and infrastructure is an important parameter in this index. All of that seems to have changed now over the last couple of years. So will the next index for 2021 have to take this into account? Will the parameters have to be different?
Yes, obviously, ideally that it should take that into account. In fact, there are certain surveys which have already been conducted by non-profit organizations about how many kids have been deprived of education in times of COVID. I think, this has not been announced officially, but whenever this does happen, the next survey, this will be one of the parameters of how many children had to drop out of school because of COVID and because they did not have access to online education, and what's the learning outcome because of this 1 year gap that some kids had to face. So obviously this will have to be taken into account for the next survey.
Right. Okay, Mohit, how are the different boards included in the survey?
So this is not a board-specific survey. It is done across states, across schools. So every school, see, like I said some time back, the UDICE data is taken into account, and UDICE data has the information from across schools, whether it's private school, government school. It has all kinds of data. So it doesn't have to be board-specific.
Right. So, Kritika, before we close, there are so many of these surveys. There is ASAR. There is this, of course, this new index that you're talking about, the sexually released index, and there is the UDICE data, as you're saying. Is it all married into one larger database to give us perhaps a larger picture? Does the Education Ministry do that?
Yes, so this performance grade index is in fact an attempt at that. It's too new, so people don't really know how to interpret it, and I don't know if states are completely utilizing this, but this is that kind of data that you're talking about. It has the UDICE data, it has the NAS data, and it also has information from the midday meal scheme, how it's being run across the country. So this is the report that states should look forward to when trying to improve their education indicators.
Right. All right. It's no longer just students who are being graded. It's also states who are being graded. They're getting A++, A+, and all of these grades that students are familiar with. So it's time that states really pull up their socks, improve the education levels, improve the kind of infrastructure and whatever else the school needs available to be able to educate students effectively. Thank you so much, Kritika, for talking to us, for explaining this index, the school grading index. A big thank you to our viewers for sending in their questions and for watching Government Matters.